the state of Georgia. Can you hear
Sharon?
me? Yes.
Hi, Sharon. Yes. You're
Good.
live with Tom Mesereau.
Hi, Sharon.
Hello to you and to Mr. Mesereau. First of all, something really quick. To the people out there that are listening and they hear other people talk about being fans or soldiers of Michael Jackson, 60% of all of Michael Jackson's people who admire him or are his fans are female. Out of 60% of all of us, we are part of the numbers of persons who have experienced molestation, sexual intimidation, or rape. Do not ever think that all of us are so delusional or so blinded by anyone's performance or their appearance that all of us would endorse, embrace, or defend someone who puts the same kind of hurt on a child that was put on us, because we wouldn't. Okay? There was a lady, I didn't catch her name, who spoke of there being federal laws, stricter federal laws or stricter laws when it came to child rape and child murders. As somebody who advocates for abused children, I agree with her up to a point. But the problem is there are many people who are sitting in jail or in prison, some who are sitting on death row, and some who have been executed, who were falsely accused and falsely imprisoned, and, of course, wrongfully executed. When our system ever gets to a point that we get rid of some of the problems that we have as far as prosecutors who abuse their authority, then perhaps we can get better laws as far as dealing with these issues. I have a question for Mr. Mesereau real quick.
Sure.
In the Chicago case, I was under the understanding that unless you were a flight risk, a judge would grant you bail. But it was not done for this officer. So what does it take for a judge to deny you bail?
Well, it's not just a question of flight risk. That's what the law used to be. It used to be that the only purpose of bail was to secure someone's appearance in court, meaning they had to post enough money or property to make it difficult for them not to appear because it would be forfeited if they did. But that has changed radically through the years. You've had legislation on the federal level and the state level that now says that if you're a threat to society, they can impose a heavy bail amount or no bail at all to make sure you're not on the streets as a threat to society.
Okay. So in his case, the judge determined that he would probably be a threat to society.
That would be my guess. My guess. The judge looked at the tape. Judge looked at the tape, saw this horrific shooting, and as I said before, what I see on the tape is someone who clearly wants this person dead. And the judge looked at it and probably said, he's a threat to society, and I'm going to deny bail.
Okay. It's something that we're discussing. I'm discussing with the group, and we couldn't quite, a lot of argument to and fro, all of us armchair lawyers. But thank you for your answer. Both of you gentlemen, I thank you, Jordan, for continually bringing Tom on. And Tom, I thank you for just being you.
Well, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
You're very nice.
You
Thank you.
have a nice evening.
Good evening, and Thanks for the call. Let's go out to code is 856. Please state your name and where you're coming from and mute your radio. You're live with Tom Mesereau. 856. It's your turn.
Hello?
Hi.
Yes. Hi.
Yes.
Your name, please.
Mary Russo. And
Okay.
I'm just calling.
Question or thought?
No, I'm calling. I have like.
Do you have a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead. What is your question?
I'm not sure.
Okay, we'll let that question go. Tom, also, the Freddie Gray trial is about to get started. Did you hear about that?
I've heard a little bit about it, yes. Another very, very disturbing case where a man who's doing virtually nothing wrong is arrested and has his back broken and dies in police custody. And for what I understand, he was never put in a seatbelt. Is not brought to the hospital, which is right nearby. A very, very disturbing case.
Yes, and the prosecutor is a young person, very aggressive, and there's like 5 different people charged.
Well, I think the fact that 5 people have been charged is going to make, conviction more difficult. I think there'll be some convictions. I don't know if they'll all be convicted, because I think they'll probably, at least some of them are going to come up with a story that I was just doing my part and I didn't see this and I didn't see that and I wasn't looking in the back seat and, that kind of thing. So the number of defendants is going to probably help the defense, because they'll probably, in their separate trials, and the judge had ordered there to be separate trials, they'll probably be pointing fingers at each other, that kind of thing. But, it's horrible what happened. This man was doing nothing wrong, really. I think it was some kind of minor offense involving his bike or something, and the next thing you knew, he was dead in police custody. Horrible.
Yeah, totally horrible. And, we had lesser evidence in the New York case, I would think, to say, with Eric Gardner, the one that was choked out.
That man that cop should have murdered as far as I'm concerned. This man his hands were up, he was not resisting, he was the father of 5 children. You needed 5 cops to go after him for allegedly selling illegal cigarettes on a street corner. I mean, come on. That was as far as I'm concerned, it was murder. That's my opinion.
Yes, and another sensitive subject which you take issue with. You feel, and I've heard you say that black lives are devalued. Can you speak to that?
Yes, I do. First of all, I believe very generally that human beings are born with a tendency to want to look down on somebody. It happens within religious groups. It happens between religious groups. It happens within national groups. It happens between national groups. People have a tendency to want to look down on someone. And one of the challenges of living a good life is to recognize that and deal with it. You have light-skinned blacks looking down on dark-skinned blacks. You have, whites from this part of town looking down on whites from that part of town. You have, all sorts of discrimination within and between groups. And we all have to do our best to recognize that and rise above it. And I do believe that in American history, right up to the present moment, there has been a general tendency to devalue people of color. It may not be conscious. It can be unconscious. It can be subconscious. But I do believe that in our system, and I'm talking about our criminal justice system, from the very beginning, there has been a tendency to place less value on black lives. And I can cite many examples of that. And I think it's something we always have to be aware of. Not just black lives, Asian lives were devalued, Native American lives were devalued. But in answer to your question, black lives have been devalued in our justice system from the time our nation started.
Absolutely. Let's go out to New York City. I believe we have Scott. Scott, you're live with Tom Mesereau.
Hi, good evening, and thank you, King Jordan, for having such a distinguished attorney as Tom Mesereau on, who's been such a champion for civil rights and the rights of all to have a full defense under the Constitution. I think it's great that you have provide this service for an unrushed, commercial-free atmosphere where one can just where people can call in, everyday people can ask questions in an unrushed atmosphere of such great legal luminaries as Tom Mesereau, and I thank you and congratulations on your 300th show. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such an honor. Normally, a person like Tom Mesereau, again, would be someone who I'd only see on CNN or Fox. Generally, we only have a few minutes, but it's really great, again, to have a platform as yours where there's extended time, and I think you're doing a really great service here. And I just wanted to ask Mr. Mesereau, I assist an attorney, and a lot of what we do is not criminal law, but city administrative law. And what I find kind of confusing, and I understand this has been a sort of confusion in the law, but it's the difference between when an offense rises to the level of a criminal offense or when it's a civil one. There are plenty of offenses that are not in the penal code. They're in administrative codes, like we represent food vendors and cabbies, and they're regulated mostly by regulations covered by the Department of Consumer Affairs. And if they're issued a violation or a ticket for not having an updated license or parking in the wrong area, they're not entitled to proof beyond a reasonable doubt or the confrontation clause, all the various protections of the Constitution, because their offense is not listed in the penal code. It's listed in a non-penal code. And it's always kind of troubled me, and yet there are some offenses probably punishable by less severe penalties than the ones that our clients deal with, maybe just a fine. You are entitled to proof beyond a reasonable doubt. I was just kind of grappling with that whole distinction and why and how how it is that or when can one argue that an offense, even though it's not in the penal code, and even though it's not punishable by deprivation of liberty through imprisonment, but it's punishable by loss of your license, a substantial fee, should be treated as a criminal. Should be afforded the protections under the Constitution for criminal offenses.
Well, you've raised a very interesting set of issues, and you certainly can't address it at length. But let's put it this way, and this what I'm going to say is a gross oversimplification. Our country places more value on freedom and reputation than it does on property and money. And the criminal justice system deals with potential loss of freedom because our country values freedom and reputation more than property and money. You can't deprive someone of freedom and reputation unless, generally speaking, unless you prove that a crime was committed beyond a reasonable doubt. In the civil process, where the disputes are mostly over property and money, it's a small